There are nights that pass quietly, dissolving into morning like mist over a river. And then there are nights that change the direction of a life so completely that time itself seems to divide into before and after. For Adrian Valen, that night began in the winter of 1871, beneath a sky so dark it seemed to swallow prayer before it could reach heaven. For Elara Winters, that night began 150 years later, beneath flickering streetlights in a forgotten town where history lingered like dust in locked rooms. Neither of them knew then that destiny is rarely loud. Sometimes it arrives as a quiet meeting between two lonely souls who believe the world has already finished breaking them. Ravenshallow was not a town people found by accident. It existed slightly off every major highway, tucked into a valley where fog gathered like a living thing, curling between rooftops and gravestones alike. The locals spoke softly, walked quickly after sunset, and treated questions about the town's past with the polite deflection of people who had learned that survival sometimes meant selective memory. Elara Winters had lived there her entire life, not because she loved Ravenshallow, but because leaving required believing there was somewhere better waiting. At 24, she worked as the evening archivist at the municipal library, a grand name for a crumbling brick building filled mostly with forgotten paperwork, historical ledgers, and personal journals donated by families who no longer wanted to remember their dead. Elara found comfort in those forgotten voices. Ink never lied, paper never pretended to be stronger than it was, and most importantly, the past never demanded that she be anything more than a quiet observer. On most nights, she stayed until closing, cataloging records by hand because the town's computer systems had not been updated in over a decade. On the night she first saw Adrian, rain painted the streets in silver reflections, and thunder rolled so distantly it felt more like memory than sound. She almost missed him. Standing beneath the broken clock tower in the town square, motionless as though he'd been carved there, was a man who looked impossibly out of place. Tall, with dark hair that fell slightly across his forehead, and skin pale enough to catch every trace of neon light from the diner sign across the street. He wasn't checking his phone, wasn't smoking, wasn't waiting for a ride. He was simply standing there, watching the sky. And when she walked past him, his gaze shifted to her with such quiet intensity that her breath caught without explanation. Not fear, not attraction, something deeper, something older, like recognizing a melody she had never heard before. She saw him again the next night, and the next. By the fourth night, curiosity outweighed caution. "You're going to catch pneumonia standing in the rain like that," she said as she approached him. His eyes moved to her slowly, deliberately, like someone adjusting to a different century. "I don't get sick," he replied calmly. The answer should have sounded arrogant. Instead it sounded factual. "I'm Elara," she said after a moment. He hesitated, not like someone deciding whether to trust her, but like someone remembering how introductions worked. "Adrian," he said finally. His voice was smooth, low, and strangely precise, as though every word passed through layers of thought before being allowed to exist. They began walking together without deciding to, past dark storefronts, past silent houses, past the cemetery gates, where iron bars were decorated with symbols so old most people no longer recognized them. "You're not from here," she said. "No, you visiting, in a way?" The answer lingered between them like a half-finished sentence. Weeks passed before she learned the truth. And when she did, it was not because Adrian told her. It was because history refused to stay buried. While cataloging old church records in the library basement, Elara discovered a box of glass plate photographs wrapped in newspaper dated 1912. One image made her hands tremble. A church gathering. Dozens of townspeople standing in formal black clothing, and among them, Adrian, identical, unchanged, standing in the back row with the same calm expression he wore now. Her logical mind tried to reject it. Family resemblance, coincidence, mistaken identity. But her instincts knew better. That night she didn't wait for him to speak first. "How old are you?" she asked quietly. He closed his eyes, and in that moment she understood something terrifying. He wasn't deciding whether to lie. He was deciding whether to finally tell the truth. "I was born in 1846, Adrian said. The words fell between them like stones into deep water. "I died in 1871. The world did not explode. The sky did not split open. But something inside Elara shifted permanently. "I should be afraid," she whispered. "Yes," he said. "But you're not." "No." He studied her like she was the first unpredictable variable in a world he had already mapped. "I was turned against my will," he continued, "by a creature who believed eternity was a gift, and it wasn't." He looked toward the cemetery hill. "Eternity is only a gift if you have something worth living it for." Adrian explained how he survived. Blood banks, animal blood, long periods of isolation when hunger grew too strong. "I have killed," he said quietly. In the beginning, the honesty made her trust him more than denial ever could. "And now?" she asked. "Now I endure." She stepped closer. "And if you lost control?" His jaw tightened. "Then I would leave before I hurt anyone." She surprised both of them by taking his hand. "I don't think you would." Months passed. Their connection deepened in quiet ways. Shared silence, shared stories, shared loneliness finally spoken aloud, until the night hunger nearly destroyed him. He tried to leave town. She stopped him. "Take mine," she said. The moment his fangs pierced her skin, something changed. Not pain. Connection. She felt his memories flash across her senses like lightning through storm clouds. Wars, famines, cities rising and falling. Centuries of watching everyone he loved die. When he pulled away, horror filled his expression. But Elara only touched his face gently. "I'm still here." Lucian arrived in autumn, older than Adrian, crueler, ancient enough to have forgotten what compassion felt like. "You bonded with her," Lucian said with amused disgust. Adrian stepped in front of Elara. "I won't let you touch her." Lucian smiled. "You misunderstand. I don't want her." His eyes glowed faintly red. "I want you to remember what you are." The library burned first, then the church archives. Lucian was sending a message. Immortals who loved mortals were weaknesses waiting to be exploited. Standing in the rain watching flames devour her life's work, Elara expected to feel empty. Instead, she felt clarity. She turned to Adrian. "I choose you." "I can't condemn you to this existence," Adrian said. "You're not condemning me," she replied. "You're giving me time." "For what?" She stepped closer. "For us." The transformation lasted 3 days. Pain beyond language. Dreams filled with blood and stars and centuries collapsing into sensation. When she woke, she could hear heartbeats across the town. Smell rain before it fell. Feel Adrian's presence like gravity pulling at her soul. "You're still you," he whispered. "I always was," she replied. Decades later, Ravenshallow forgot them. New buildings replaced old ones. New people replaced old fears. But sometimes, on quiet nights, 2 figures still walked beneath the clock tower. And eternity no longer felt like a curse, because eternity shared finally felt like home.